Good morning. It is the 3rd of January 2021. This is Dr. Deepak Natarajan, Senior Consultant Interventional Cardiologist from Delhi. You all know that the Moderna vaccine has been authorized by the FDA. Now the data of the phase 3 trial is published in the New England Journal of Medicine last week. The data is very bright. They had 30,000 volunteers. Of these, 15,000 were given the vaccine and 15,000 were given the placebo injection, which was a salt water injection. What was found was that there were a total of 196 infections, 185 in the placebo group and 11 in the vaccinated group, giving us an efficacy of 94%, which is comparable to the efficacy shown by the Pfizer vaccine, which has also been published in the NEJM. Now, for both vaccines, 2 injections are required. In the case of the Pfizer vaccine, the booster vaccine is given after 3 weeks, whereas in Moderna, it is given after 4 weeks. The injections are intramuscular and the dose is 30 micrograms with the Pfizer vaccine and 100 micrograms with the Moderna vaccine. There is an editorial also in the New England Journal of Medicine along with the phase 3 data, which has been published. The editorial naturally uploads the almost watertight information and data by the Moderna researchers. However, it cautions us against what is called ADE, which is antibody-dependent enhancement. And also along with it, there is a phenomenon called vaccine-associated enhancement of disease. Now, I will try to explain to you what these problems are. In the case of dengue has 4 strains, strain 1, 2, 3, and 4. If someone gets infected by strain 1 or by strain 2, then that person will produce antibodies. In the event these antibodies are suboptimal or there are not enough neutralizing antibodies produced, then in the event of a future infection with another dengue strain, that is strain 2, 3, or 4 or whatever, then the antibodies which are present in the body form a complex with the new virus infection, and this complex actually accelerates or facilitates the entry of the virus into cells, and this causes a more serious disease and even hospitalization, and may cause what is called a dengue hemorrhagic fever, which is a pretty nasty situation. Now, this has also been seen with the dengue vaccine. What has been noticed is that if the vaccine is given, this is a tetravalent vaccine, that means that antibodies are produced against all the strains of the dengue virus. But if the person concerned is vaccine naive, or rather dengue naive, which means that the person has not been infected earlier, then if in the event that person gets infected after vaccination, the situation is far more serious in the children who have been given the vaccination as opposed to the children who have not been given the vaccine. But if a child has already been infected, then the vaccines work. So this is called a vaccine-associated enhancement of disease. This was first seen in the 1960s with 2 vaccines. These were the measles vaccine and the respiratory syncytial virus vaccines. Both these vaccines were inactivated. They were killed vaccines. So this has to be kept in mind, that the killed vaccines in the 1960s triggered off what is called vaccine-associated enhancement of disease, which means that in children who were vaccinated with these vaccines, in the event they got infected with the disease later on, the disease was much more serious. In fact, with the respiratory syncytial virus vaccine, 2 children actually died. So the preparations and the manufacturing of these vaccines was suspended for a long time. Now, why do I mention this? I mention this because this editorial rightly cautions us, rightly tells people that we must be very careful, despite the fact that this phenomenon has not been seen either with the Pfizer vaccine nor with the Moderna vaccine. And this has not been seen even in the animal trials, not in the phase 1, not in the phase 2, and not in the phase 3 trials. But this does not mean that this may not present itself later. So what is recommended is that there is a very close surveillance, what is called post-licensing surveillance of these vaccines. That is, even after the vaccines have been authorized, even after the vaccines have been approved, there has to be a close monitoring to look out for these problems. But the good news is that in the Moderna trial, as also in the Pfizer trial, all the serious infections took place in the placebo group. For instance, in Moderna, there were 30 people who got infected with the severe disease and none in the vaccinated group, which means that the vaccine definitely has protection against severe disease. This efficacy is 100%, and also this implies that there was no instance of a vaccine-associated enhancement of disease. I have been talking about the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines because the trials have been conducted very, very carefully. The regulators have pored through the data extremely carefully, and the analysis is very rigorous, bearing in mind that there is a raging pandemic gripping the world. Many people are dying, and many, many people are infected and are getting infected every day. The consequences, whether economic, social, or psychological, have been enormous. Economies have been almost shattered in many countries of the world. Millions, hundreds of millions of people are staring at poverty. They are staring at starvation. The UNICEF apparently has reported that 10,000 children are dying of starvation every month. So with this urgency, the fact that the FDA has still been very, very careful in its analysis of the data provided by these two companies is, I think, very laudable. Now, the situation with the AstraZeneca vaccine is rather different. I don't think that the analysis has been rigorous enough. The data is not at all comparable to the data provided by Pfizer and Moderna. Now we come to the AstraZeneca vaccine data, which I have been talking about, and I have elaborated in my previous segments. The 90% efficacy has only been seen in the 2,700 people who were accidentally, or rather mistakenly, given half the dose as the first shot. And what was seen was that 33 people got infected. Of these 33, 3 were in the vaccinated group and 30 in the placebo group. So that gave them an efficacy of 90%. But this data, this subset analysis has not been accepted by the FDA. The FDA has demanded that AstraZeneca gives them a complete picture. They redesign their protocol, they redesign their study and present their data. This should take at least another 3 or 4 months. And it is my impression that the FDA will authorize the AstraZeneca vaccine somewhere in April or May after another global trial is completed by AstraZeneca. Now, the 60% efficacy seen by AstraZeneca was seen in about 11,000 volunteers. That is, 27 people got infected in the vaccinated group as opposed to 71 in the placebo group. Also, there were people who had severe infection, but these were seen only in the placebo group. So in that, the AstraZeneca seems to work to some extent. The efficacy cannot be more than 60%. But the very important thing is that the 90% efficacy seen in the 2,700 volunteers was not seen, or rather that group did not include people above the age of 55 years. I have just mentioned that Moderna has included people above the age of 65 years, and here the efficacy was 86%. So a vaccine which has not been tested in people above the age of 55 years is a rather iffy proposition, to say the least. Now we come to the positive news. I concede that there is an epidemic, and as I've already mentioned, that the consequences The collateral damage have also been immense, and therefore our government and the regulating agencies have had to accelerate or rather dilute their rigor in analyzing the data. But the problem is that neither AstraZeneca nor, this is the Serum Institute from Pune, nor the other vaccine which has been authorized today, that is the Hyderabad company, which is Bharat Biotech, in collaboration with ICMR, which has been approved by the Indian Expert Committee. Neither of these companies have provided any phase 3 trial data. In fact, there is no data of phase 3 trials by these two companies. So, as opposed to the American approach to these vaccines, as the approach by the FDA, the approach by the British authorities has been far more lenient, has been far more lax, but we have upped that. We have actually been even more lax by the fact that in spite of not having any data whatsoever, there is not even any evidence of the protocols provided to our expert committees. Both these companies have been given the green light. Both the vaccines have been authorized for emergency use, and one will see that both the vaccines will be rolled out very soon. Now, the Serum Institute vaccine is the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is a DNA which is put inside a common cold harmless virus. This enters your cell and commands your nucleus to make messenger RNAs, which then exit the nucleus of your cell and then get into the ribosomes of your cell and then make the spike proteins of the virus, and this triggers an immune response. As opposed to the Serum Institute vaccine, the Bharat Biotech is an inactivated vaccine, which means that the virus has been killed by a chemical. The dead virus, which now obviously cannot replicate, cannot multiply in your body, is injected, but the shell of the dead virus is enough to trigger an immune response, which will then produce antibodies and also T cells and provide immunity against future infections. But as I have mentioned, we do not have phase 2 or phase 3 trial data with us. And as I mentioned to you earlier, that the vaccine associated diseases was seen by the inactivated measles and by the killed respiratory syncytial virus vaccine. The other big story, which most of you would not know, that in the year 1955, the Salk vaccine, that is the inactivated polio vaccine, was administered, and this was authorized. This was authorized very quickly. A committee was set up by the government, and that gave permission for distribution of this vaccine. The meeting lasted less than 3 hours. The result was that one company, I think this was called Qatar made a vaccine which was not fully killed. It made a vaccine which still had live virus in it, and the result was that about almost 50 to 70,000 children got infected with the polio virus. Almost 200 got paralyzed, and about 10 died. So the take-home message is, yes, there is a pandemic, there is an element of urgency, but we cannot cut quarters, we cannot cut corners, and we have to be careful in the clearance of these vaccines, and we must be sure with what we are dealing. We cannot emulate the British government, which is being rather lax. In fact, it seems as if on a daily basis they are pressing panic buttons, because now they're talking about mixing and matching of vaccines, which means what they're saying is that if you have been given a Pfizer vaccine and when you need a booster vaccine, if we do not know whether you've received the Pfizer vaccine, or if we do not know, or if we do not have the Pfizer vaccine with us, then we will inject you with the AstraZeneca vaccine. So now this is a strategy which has not been tested, which has not been researched, despite having absolutely no data. The British government is prepared because it says there is an emergency. Therefore, they can go along with the mixing and matching of vaccines. In fact, the British government has also been negotiating with the Russian government to combine the Russian and the English AstraZeneca vaccines. That is, a person may get one vaccine from AstraZeneca, and the second vaccine which would be used would be the Russian vaccine. But England has already placed an order for 140 million vaccines. Their population is about 63 million. So therefore, I don't see why they are diluting their authorizing process. But there is some rationale in what they are saying. What they are saying now is that, look, if supposing we have two people, right? If we have two people, we have two grandparents, it is best that we inject both of them at once rather than inject one and give the second injection after a month or after 3 months. By injecting both of them, at least we will get some sort of partial immunity, and therefore we should get some partial or incomplete protection against the virus. Well, I agree with that, because the Moderna vaccine, or rather the Pfizer vaccine, has shown an efficacy of almost 89% after 15 days and between 15 and 21 days after the first shot, but full immunity after a week of the booster shot. So this is what I will leave you with. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you have liked this video, please do share this video, and I almost beseech you to put in a comment in the comment section of this video. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching me.